Hello and welcome to the COVID-19 update on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. First, the highlights. Ogun State government gives incentives for residents who take the COVID-19 jabs. Imo State commences community mass vaccination in 27 local government areas. And Hong Kong treats dozens of patients under tents as hospitals run out of spaces from surging new infections. Thank you for joining us. There are currently over 11 million confirmed COVID-19 cases on the African continent, with more than 10.2 million recoveries and 244,000 deaths cumulatively. This is according to the World Health Organization Africa region. And Nigeria continues to record a decline in daily case numbers, according to last night's figures by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. Here's more on the pandemic update.
13 additional persons in Nigeria have tested positive to COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. According to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the latest figures were reported from 4 states and indicate a drop from the figures reported earlier. Rivers reported 7 cases and Nasarawa had 4 infections, while Abia and Taraba State recorded 1 each. Nigeria now has a cumulative caseload of 254,137. The report includes a backlog of 1 case from Taraba State. 7 patients have been discharged in the last 24 hours, increasing the total number of recoveries to 230,479. There was no additional death recorded in the last 24 hours, leaving the fatality toll at 3,141. Currently, there are over 20,000 active cases in Nigeria, while more than 4.2 million samples have been tested so far. Lagos State accounts for the highest number of cases on admission, with over 17,000 active infections, followed by Benue and Nasarawa states. Over 16.7 million Nigerians of eligible age have received 1 dose of a COVID-19 vaccination, while more than 7.1 million of the population have been fully vaccinated. In Africa, over 11 million persons have tested positive, while over 245,000 deaths have been recorded across countries on the continent. Globally, the total number of confirmed cases has surpassed 417 million, while deaths are now beyond 5.8 million.
And some incentives are now available in Ogun State to encourage more residents to participate in the vaccination exercise against COVID-19. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Tomi Koke, made this declaration in Abeokuta, the state capital, while answering questions from journalists on the situation of the pandemic in the state and efforts towards containing it. So far, the state has vaccinated about 880,000 residents, which represents about 26% of the population. She adds that while vaccines are available, modalities are also in place to ensure that hard-to-reach locations across the state are adequately covered.
As you know, we started the mass vaccination on the 1st of November, and the target was for us to vaccinate 2 million people. Since then, we've been running a consistent campaign, going to our tertiary centers, markets, garages, and our communities. We've got 344 sites, and to date, between 1st of November to date, we've vaccinated over 880,000 Ogun State citizens. However, if you take it back to 6th of March, when we started the campaign, we've vaccinated over 1 million doses. So if you take it as a percentage, Ogun State has vaccinated about 26% of its population. But I'd like to, again, emphasize to our citizens that are yet to be vaccinated, please come out, be vaccinated. We have a few incentives for you, like airtime, if you do come out. So the sooner you come out, the more likely you'll be a participant in the goodies that we have.
Well, over to the southeast, where the Imo State government says to achieve a COVID-19-free state, residents of the state across the 27 local government areas must embrace the efforts of government in combating the dreaded virus, especially supporting the ongoing vaccination program. The Commissioner for Health disclosed this at a press briefing in Owerri ahead of the flag-off of the community mass vaccination, where he laments the abysmal and low response by residents in the vaccination program. While reiterating that COVID-19 is real, he says in the past 1 week, the state has taken about 52 samples with 15 positive cases, while the state presently has a total of 54 active cases.
Currently, our vaccination rate is very low in the country, where I think we are the third or second to the last. We're just ahead of 2 states, Anambra and Bayelsa, and the uptake is really very low. Vaccine, like I would always tell you, is not treatment, but it's preventive, because it makes you have that immunity, and your body now recognizes that, oh, if in case if you meet up with COVID, that you've actually had seen such, and to fight it. So it's really very good. The vaccines are very available. They are safe. They are free. The flag off campaign is going to lead us to the rural areas, to the communities where we have vaccination teams that will be going from door to door. We are also going to add the mobile clinic to the local governments, so that if there are emergency situations, health issues, the medical team attached to the mobile clinic will also attend to the people. His Excellency has made it easier for the people, the grassroots, to have these vaccines come to them. It is not going to be an urban idea, but it's going to be a generalized thing. For us to achieve a COVID-free Imo State, so we urge all Imolites to come out en masse, embrace this, own this, and campaign for this.
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has had an unprecedented impact on health systems in most countries, and in particular on the mental health and well-being of health workers on the front lines of pandemic response efforts. To look at adverse mental health impacts on healthcare workers during the times of crisis and other challenging working conditions, including the pandemic, well, joining us here in Lagos, Dr. Naya Egegbara, a consultant psychiatrist. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'd like to begin with an analysis independent researchers conducted, and this was sometime in May 2021, involving over almost 100,000 healthcare workers, 21 countries. And they identified a lot of things: moderate depression, anxiety, PTSD among healthcare workers during COVID-19. In Nigeria, do we have that kind of study of what our frontline workers have gone through since 2020 up until now?
Well, there may not be official large-scale reports that has focused on just the healthcare workers. A lot of the studies that have been large-scale have largely been focused more on the patients who have had the COVID-19 disorder. But understandably, considering the fact that since December 19, that the first incidence of the COVID-19 was reported, the incidences don't seem to be abating. We've had the first wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave. When it looks as though there's going to be some respite, another spike comes on. And of course, the health workers are always at the forefront, and it seems they haven't been able to take a break since that started. So definitely there have been studies that have reported various mental health disorders among the healthcare workers, and including those already mentioned in the large-scale study that you referenced. like depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, but also, very importantly, burnout. You know, it seems to be something that is not getting enough attention, but even persons who haven't come down with the more commonly known mental health disorders are experiencing burnout.
When you say burnout, how does one experience that?
Okay, well, when you consider the fact that these healthcare professionals are the ones that are having first-line experience of seeing the suffering that the patients go through, the struggle for life, the, the grief that comes with losses. And usually they're the ones that get to break the news of death to the relatives. And they're expected in all of this chaos to be strong. But they are giving, and they are giving, and they are given emotionally, mentally, physically. And when there is, a lot of workload and not enough time for respite, not enough time to rejuvenate, so to say, there's bound to be burnout. So burnout, as defined by Mash Lush, is the complete physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion in the face of, continuous excessive work stress. So this COVID-19 pandemic definitely has brought about increased workload, more than has ever been precedented, and it doesn't seem to be letting up.
I mean, to think that, Nigeria in Africa is struggling with the number of doctors to the population, I believe 38 to 100,000, which is not what the WHO has recommended. I mean, that alone is should cause burnout to start with. But looking at other healthcare workers, some have said that the nurses also face a different type of, sort of mental stress, especially from COVID-19, different from the medical doctors. I think they've mentioned high particular stress among women nurses who are frontline workers who have also experienced physical symptoms.
Yeah, okay. So the stress that they experience could manifest as physical symptoms. And usually when there is no, when investigations are done and there is no explanation for the physical symptoms, then you realize the underlying issue is actually psychological. So whether it's nurses or it's doctors or it's social workers or it's caregivers, they are all on the front line. Even the cleaners, have been more stretched. They're working in, healthcare centers, especially caring for, the COVID-19 citizens. Even those who are not directly connected with the care of those who have been infected, like the mental health workers, they're also overstretched because the pandemic has had a global effect mentally. So there have been increasing incidences, even in the general population. Okay? So
have we been able to solve this? This problem amongst frontline workers? Is the government listening? Are they aware? Are hospitals helping staff in any way?
Okay, let me address maybe the issue of burnout because it actually has a very high incidence. And there are three cardinal areas where the symptoms could present. There are symptoms that have to do with exhaustion generally. So there you have some symptoms that could also be seen in depression, such as changes in appetite, falling ill themselves incessantly, insomnia, lack of concentration, headaches, those are some of the signs of the physical exhaustion. Then there are the symptoms that they will express that is as a result of cynicism and detachment from the work, because internally they begin to detach from that source of the stress. So you find them being more cynical, being sarcastic, and being less empathetic in the care. And then, of course, their productivity is less. They're not meeting up with deadlines, and they're falling short of expected goals.
We just have a few seconds to go before the break.
Okay, so you wanted me to address, talk about how to address these issues. So to be able to address it, it's important that autonomy, engagement be involved with organizations who are offering health care in this period of pandemic. Because a lot of times you may not be able to do anything about the workload, but if there's engagement, and engagement involves working the organizations, working with employees to find out their own opinion about how to make things better. All right, then individuals by themselves should be able to take a break. Even if it's impossible, it could just be finding 5-minute chunks out of an hour to do something else different. It could be to chat with a friend. They should find time to also talk about how they feel, especially if they have negativity building up due to the stress. All right.
It's definitely an area we need to revisit and talking about it.
We've not had enough time to exhaust all of it today.
Indeed. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Dr. Naya Gebara, consultant psychiatrist, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure being here.
Well, still to come, Professor Abayomi is talking about the continued use of the face mask in Lagos. We have that story and more when we return. Welcome back. The Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, is appealing to residents to continue to obey all the non-pharmaceutical guidelines and win the war against the coronavirus. Professor Abayomi says the use of face masks is still mandatory in Lagos to completely stem the spread of the deadly virus. He also adds that we may experience another wave, but it will be mild.
We may get subsequent waves, but they will be very soft and gentle waves. So it all depends on how we as Lagosians obey the guidelines that the Presidential Steering Committee and Mr. Governor, through the incident command structure in Lagos, have laid down for us as Lagosians to keep ourselves safe and healthy and to allow our economy to remain open. We don't want the economy to shut down. But it's up to us to make sure that we follow the guidelines and we carry on business, but in a safe way so that everybody is safe. The issue of face mask is one that we will be observing globally, as more people get vaccinated, as the number of COVID cases starts to reduce around the world, we may start to introduce or lighten the requirements for the wearing of face masks. Certainly in the outside it may be something that we can look at, but when you start moving into crowded environments, it's still safer to wear your safe mask until we know exactly where COVID is globally.
We switch now to the race for vaccine manufacturing in Africa. Dr. Simon Agwale is the CEO, Innovative Biotech Nigeria and Innovative Biotech in the US, also a member of the board of the African Vaccine Manufacturers Initiative. He joins us on the program. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Talk to us about the VLP, virus-like particle vaccine for COVID-19 that your firm is working on.
Well, as you know, the first generation COVID vaccines, which are the mRNA, the viral vectors, the inactivated, we can see clearly that they played a role. Without these vaccines, we don't know what will have happened in the world today. But they have limitations, so there's a need to develop a second generation vaccine that will overcome the limitations of the first generation vaccines. Before I talk about the second generation vaccine and why we chose the virus-like particle technology platform to make our COVID vaccine, I would like to encourage everybody to go take these vaccines. They help in preventing severe disease, but as clearly they don't really prevent infection. So that's why we need a second generation vaccine. So what are VLPs, viral-like particles? This platform, as you know, was used to develop two very successful vaccines, the HPV, hepatitis B vaccine, and then the HPV vaccine, which is the human papilloma virus vaccine that protects against cervical cancer. Now, if you take, as you know, either 1, 2, or 3 doses of the HPV vaccine, it protects for more than 10 years, and there's no evidence of decay in the protection. It means that 1, 2, or 3 doses potentially protects you for life. So the idea is that we have a platform that works, so how can we adapt it to develop a COVID vaccine? Now, if you look at the other advantage, the HPV vaccines that we have today, you can see they're either bivalent, tetravalent, or 9-valent. So you can mix 9 different variants in a vaccine. So what we have done is to use this platform to incorporate Beta, Delta, and Omicron to make it a trivalent vaccine. And then the other advantage is that you are not only expressing the spike protein, which is what most of the vaccines are expressing, but you are also expressing other proteins of the virus that have been shown to be pretty conserved. So the idea is to take care of the current variants and then prevent against infection, future variants.
You also mentioned that trials have begun in Ghana, Nigeria as well, and some other countries. At what stage is it in, and when will production begin?
Yes, we are actually going to South Africa to start the clinical trials. We had to delay the process because we were in South Africa before Omicron, visiting the site where the clinical trials will be done. And then Omicron came up, so we have to understand the transmission dynamics and to see whether we should incorporate Omicron into the vaccine cocktail before we move ahead with the clinical trials. So we have just made the Omicron VLP. We're now incorporating it with the Beta, Delta that we have. And then we'll move to South Africa to do phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials. So we're in the process of producing the clinical trial material here in the US that we can do the phase 1, phase 2 trials in South Africa. And then the final phase of trials, we will incorporate other countries like Ghana, Nigeria, and Egypt has also indicated interest to participate in the trials. And we hope that by the 3rd quarter, 4th quarter of this year, we should conclude all the clinical trials and then seek for emergency use authorization to have this exciting product in the hands of people.
And as things progresses, we'll definitely speak to you some more on the VLP COVID-19 vaccine. We'd like to appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Dr. Simon Ogwale, CEO, Innovative Biotech Nigeria and the US, also member of the board of African Vaccine Manufacturers Initiative. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Talking about vaccines, Moderna Incorporated has applied for patents in South Africa relating to its COVID-19 vaccine, prompting fears the company could eventually seek to prevent a new African vaccine manufacturing hub from making its own version of the mRNA shot. Moderna spokesperson Colleen Hussey confirmed it had filed for it related to both the COVID-19 vaccine and Moderna's platform technology in South Africa and elsewhere after a group of 60 Africa-based charities raised concerns about them, but said the move would not block vaccine distribution in Africa. Here's more on the global update.
While Moderna continues with its application for the patent in South Africa for its COVID-19 vaccine, South Africa's Afrigen Biologics, which used the publicly available sequence of Moderna's vaccine to make its own version of the vaccine, says it has received no communication from the company about the patent filings. Afrigen Chief Executive Petro Terblanche says unless the patents made by Moderna are revoked, they will impact the facility's freedom to operate.
In terms of freedom to operate, there are patents filed in South Africa and other low and middle income countries by Moderna that unless those are revoked or voluntary licenses are awarded, or Moderna will waive it, it will impact on our freedom to operate. And these are patents with broad claims such as any vaccine containing mRNA. That is problematic for a whole platform to have freedom to operate.
The first epidemiological experts from China have arrived in Hong Kong to support the region's fight against a recent new outbreak of coronavirus cases. Hong Kong received a surge in number of COVID-19 infections this February. Dozens of COVID-19 patients are being treated outside a hospital today under tents, with hospitals in the city overwhelmed by the surge in cases. Quarantine facilities have reached capacity and hospital beds are more than 90% full. Health authorities reported a record 6,116 confirmed cases today, up from 4,285 the previous day, with a further 6,300 preliminary positive cases. That takes the total since January to more than 16,600. They reported 24 new deaths. Meanwhile, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says the country will ease border controls imposed to counter the pandemic, softening measures that have been among the strictest imposed by wealthy nations and have been slammed by businesses and educators. About 150,000 foreign students have been kept out of Japan, along with workers desperately needed by an aging nation with a shrinking population, prompting warnings of labor shortages and damage to Japan's international reputation. From March, authorities will increase the number of people allowed to enter to 5,000 a day from 3,500 now.
Well, you can visit our websites for more updates, also a better understanding of the pandemic. We also have other breaking stories all at your fingertips. It's channelstv.com. And that's our program this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Stay safe.